What's up, everyone? Today on the podcast, I have long-term friend and former My Kingdom founder, Paul Oppido. So Paul and I met in 2011, 2012, and we met as strangers, and within minutes, we became lifelong friends. After playing in a band together for many years, Paul moved on to pursue his career in the medical field. His journey was long, and there was a lot of struggles along the way, which he gets into during the podcast. But after going through all of that, his results speak for themselves. He's a graduate of the New York Institute of Technology with a master's in Physician Assistant Studies, specializing in cardiothoracic surgery. Paul has received many accolades, such as an award for leadership and professionalism voted by his professors and his administration. And on top of that, he won the Student Peer Award, which is voted by his classmates, who also chose him to speak at their white coat ceremony. Paul is someone I'm truly blessed to have in my life, and I'm very happy I got to sit with him. I hope you enjoy the podcast. And if you do, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to join the conversation, leave a comment in the comments down below. Enjoy the podcast.
I just don't want to. Just don't want to.
Don't you have to do a lot of math, though, for your position?
Well, thankfully, a lot of things are automated now, so... a lot of that stuff would be for pharmacology, doing dosages and things like that for drugs. But it's all on the computer now, so you really don't have to. There's a couple of things that you kind of have to know, like a couple of equations here and there to figure out certain things. But for the most part, it's already done for you. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me how that technology is making things so much easier where you don't have to know as much. Mm-hmm. But it's a slippery slope a little bit. You know what I mean?
It's a double-edged sword to a certain extent, because people will probably get complacent and not work as hard to know certain things. These programs that they have built in, these electronic medical records and like I said, they have the automated pharmacological stuff. They have these alerts that come up. So, given certain situations, people are already taking a certain drug. So now another drug is contraindicated, so it shouldn't be used. Depending upon their health history, they're dealing with certain disease states, comorbidities, things like that. An alert just pops up. So you don't necessarily have to know that anymore. It's tough, though, because the perception of medicine, especially for lay people, is everybody knows everything all the time. Right. Doctors are on a very high pedestal, healthcare workers in general, but that's not necessarily the case. I think one of the most important things that I learned going through school was know what you know and know what you don't, and be able to reach out and say, hey, what do you think? This isn't my specialty. This isn't something that I deal with on a regular basis. Like, what do you think? Mm-hmm. Which I think that's important, across the board, to know your limits and know when you have to reach out and say, like, I need some help. And that's a good thing, because that's why there are specialists. That's why there are cardiologists, and gastroenterologists and pulmonologists. Everyone has their own specialty, and they know the ins and outs, the minutia, like the small details. So that's always important to kind of know where your limit is.
It's interesting and they have to keep up with everyone else, though, at that point too. Sure. Don't they? Because one thing you might be a specialist in, and you know it in and out, and that might affect another branch.
Sure. In
certain ways, if things start to change, right?
Of course. Medicine's always changing. There's constantly new studies coming out, and standards of care are being changed and adapted depending upon new interventions, new drugs that come out. Somebody does a study and says that A has a lower morbidity and mortality than B, so now you're going to do A instead of B. Mm-hmm. So that's constant. It's a living thing in the sense that these changes are constantly happening. They're always doing new studies, new trials, new drugs are coming out. So, it's important to stay up on things and to have an understanding, at least a base understanding of different specialties. And going through school, as a PA, you definitely have a broader understanding. Like, there's a broad spectrum of knowledge that they expect you to have, and that they test you on. So coming out, it's different in the sense of the depth in which doctors know certain things, as opposed to PAs within the scope of what you learn in school and what the curriculum allows. It's a broader understanding. And then as you go in and you start working, you learn more. I mean, you're constantly learning. You're constantly, if you're good at what you do, you have that drive to want to know more and understand certain things. And going back to what I said before, if you know your limits, you say, hey, I don't know this, teach me it. What do I'm not really too familiar with this. What is the indication for this? Or what are the, first and second line treatments for this? So, you learn some things and you kind of add it to your arsenal as you go along. It's a lifelong learning situation for sure.
With that in mind, being that things are changing so fast, right? So how does one keep up?
There's journals that come out on a monthly basis. There's one for my national advocacy group called JAPA, the Journal of the American Academy of Physician Assistants. There's the New England Journal of Medicine. There's different journals based on specialties. There's cardiology based, there's pulmonology based, there's, different things along those lines. I think having the internet and technology as we do makes things a lot easier. These studies that come out are, within the snap of a finger, they're there at your phone. Once it's in and once it's done, people have it. People have that information and they can go and look it up at a moment's notice. Whereas back in the day, if you didn't know something off the bat, maybe you had to go to a textbook and open it up and go to the right chapter, go to the right page. Now you could put something in online. You could look at Up to Date, which is a website that is a confluence of all of the medical information out there. It's all based on studies, so they'll have, what are the indications for coronary artery bypass graft, which is like a bypass open heart, someone who has coronary artery disease. You hear someone who has a triple bypass, that's coronary artery bypass graft. You could look that up specifically. What are the indications? What type of people do we do it on? What are the complications? What are we concerned about? And that's a very useful tool people utilize in the hospital, especially even outpatient facilities, that they can go right on, type it in, have everything at their fingertips, know what's there, and they could go right to it. Because you don't know everything all the time. Again, it kind of goes back to what I said. Realizing that you want to know what your resources are and be able to look them up, as expeditiously as possible. So, there's a lot of great stuff out there. There's anatomy tools. There's, 3D models you can go on your tablet and flip it around, manipulate it, take the muscles off, turn the muscles on, look at only the nerves, look at only the vasculature. So you have all these different things that you can utilize that help you become a better practitioner, as long as you know what they are and when you can use them or when you should use them. So there's a lot of things out there.
So in your specialty is in what, cardiac?
I'm going to be starting a job, for cardiothoracic surgery.
Okay.
So as a new graduate, I'm slowly going to be working my way up. I'm going to start just on the floor on a step-down unit. So when people come out post-operatively right after a surgery, they're usually in the ICU for a little bit. And then as they get better, they're more stable, they go down to a floor, they go down to step-down. So I'll probably start over there. The patients are less critical. There's not as much to know, for lack of a better term.
It's more recovery.
Zone. Yeah. They've already gotten past that really critical.
They've gone over the hump.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the first couple of days, first couple of hours, certainly after open heart surgery, are the most vital. A lot of things can go wrong. So they kind of start you off slowly. Like I said, especially as a new graduate, and then eventually I'll be going to the ICU and then eventually into the OR, into the operating room, and learning how to help the surgeons themselves. So that'll be my specialty, but you have to have an understanding of a multitude of different specialties, because you have to be able to recognize when something's going wrong and say, hey, I need to call the urologist because they might have, a kidney stone going on or something along those lines. They're retaining urine, so got to call them and know what the issue is. So even though you become specialized and you have a more of a focused view on what your knowledge should be, it still should remain broad enough that you don't let things slide by or know who to reach out to when you don't really know what's going on. So
you have to be able to recognize a symptom or recognize a behavior,
Exactly.
And to be like, all right, that might be this. This isn't my specialty. Let me call this guy, right? But you have to have that base knowledge to recognize when things go wrong and what goes wrong more often than not and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you've been at this. So how long have we known each other now? It's got to be.
When did my kingdom start?
My kingdom started around 2012, 2011.
Sounds about right.
11. It was like Aurora.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So, it's 2019. So about 8 years, almost a decade here.
Right. We were in the band for a few years. And then towards the end of it, before I left, that's when I was going back to school. So I was getting prerequisites at that point. So I was still working. And then I would work overnights as a nursing assistant, which
Right.
I'm sure you remember.
Right.
I would come to practice at night and then go to work.
Right. Yeah. It would be like your morning.
Exactly.
Yeah, practicing would be your morning.
Exactly. So I would do that. And then I would, I took a few classes at Nassau Community College as prerequisites. So I did that. And once I had enough to be able to actually apply, then I, sent everything out to all the PA schools and everything like that. Got rejected from 3 out of 4 of them. Right.
So my sister is doing EMS right now. And her big thing is, I got to put so much time into this. I don't know how to work this hard. Like I've failed. She failed at chemistry and all the prerequisite classes. And I was telling her, I was like, talk to my friend Paul, because Paul went through all of that. Like he went through so much struggle in the beginning, and there was a point where, us as his friends were like, why are you still doing this? Like, be a rock star.
If that was a definitive option, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
I know, that's true.
So even before PA school, I actually failed organic chemistry the first time I took it, or I was failing it and actually had to withdraw because I couldn't finish out the semester. It was easier to just do a withdrawal, get back into it after the fact, and then wound up getting a C or a C plus, something, that was not good. And at that point, I believe my science GPA was somewhere around like a 3.1, and basically every candidate who was applying had at least like a 3.5, at least. And all my grades were pretty good, but that being a 5-credit course, the organic chemistry just killed it, just killed my GPA. So I applied to 4 schools. I got an acceptance letter from 1. I got rejected from 3 right off the bat. So I got called in for an interview at NYIT, and I went and did the interview. It was a 2-part. One was like trying to get a feel for your personality. The other one was specific to your academics. And during the interview, they actually asked me that question. They're like, how do you feel about the fact that you have about a 3.1 GPA, science GPA, and most of the candidates have at least a 3.5? So it kind of, at that point it hit me. I'm like, I forget it, how I answered it at this point. But to make a long story short, the next day I was put on a waiting list.
Okay.
So to me, that was a very easy decision for them to make. Immediately put on the waiting list. This was probably December, January, 2015 into 2016. And from there on, I didn't hear anything from them. Heard nothing. So by the time the summer rolled around, I'm like, well, this is obviously not going to happen. So I started looking into nursing programs, accelerated nursing programs, because I already had my bachelor's degree and I could do it in a couple of years. And then I finally got a call at the end of July. Now, this program was starting at the end of August, or excuse me, I got a call at the end of June. and the program was starting at the end of August, and they're like, "Are you still interested?" And I'm like, I guess so. I mentally I'd already kind of accepted that I wasn't getting in, so I was moved on to other things. So I was even asking people like, "Oh, should I do it?" Blah blah blah. And they're like, "No, like this is what you wanted to do from the get-go. This is, you should pursue it. You should keep going through with it." So I said, "All right." I accepted, and from there it lit a fire under my ass.
Right.
Like, to me, they had already made a decision. They're like, "You don't deserve to be here. You got lucky because someone else clearly didn't accept the position." And they're like, they went down the list and said, "All right, we have another one on the waiting list. Let's just call him and see if he's interested. We'll take his money." Yeah.
Essentially.
So from there on, I'm like, no, like this is, I'm going to show them that I deserve to be here. And, the 3 years went by. I worked my ass off, and without getting into too much detail, I won 3 awards for professionalism, leadership, and including this peer award that is voted on by my classmates. So they voted me to be,
That's
to
awesome.
get this award. Yeah, basically, that I showed leadership qualities and, support and things like that. That was the coolest thing, I think. And I was also actually voted on to be the class speaker. So I gave a speech at our white coat ceremony.
Did you really?
I did, out of all the people. So, it was, the journey was tough. And throughout all of it, there wasn't, a moment where I was like, "Oh, this is easy. Like, I got this." But I knew even when it was difficult that this was something I loved doing. It came naturally. And to have that recognition at the end of it from not only the administration and my professors, but also my peers, having gone through what I did just to get in was, it just made it all worth it. And it's probably some of my proudest moments, like being up on stage and speaking to them and being honored in that way, because they're such a great group of people, and for them to choose me was really something special. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Was that filmed?
It was. I actually
need to see
do.
that.
I have it. I will definitely show it to you later.
I'm going to cut to it right now.
Thank you all for coming to the class of 2019 White Coat Ceremony. I would like to start out with something very personal. I received an email a couple of weeks ago letting me know that our class had chosen me to be their speaker for our White Coat Ceremony. As my mother, I'm sure, would love to tell you, I immediately called her upon hearing the news. My mother's been a nurse for 70 years, and is the main reason I chose to pursue a career in medicine. Now, admittedly, we both broke down and cried a little during the call, but in my defense, I had just gotten out of Avengers Endgame, and I was a little emotional to begin with. 10 out of 10, highly recommended, by the way, great movie. But to know that a group of people who I look up to and admire so much would choose to have me as their speaker is truly one of my greatest honors, so thank you. They chose the choir, so you can blame them. Thank you to the administration, faculty, professors, adjunct and full-time, and preceptors. Your unwavering support has brought us here to this very moment. Imparting your knowledge, both clinical and practical, has shaped who we are and who we will be as clinicians. Days were long, study hours constant, and the tests and quizzes as challenging as they were frequent. Yet here we sit, one step away from the real-world application of what your 3 years of guidance and teaching have trained us for. We are the product of your time and effort, and we promise to make you proud. To our family, friends, and loved ones, we wouldn't be here without you. You are truly the foundation upon which all of our success has been built. Some of you are even the reason we chose medicine. Thank you for feeding us, providing many of us with a place to sleep and study, and most importantly, allowing us to say no. We've missed birthdays, weddings, family reunions, bar and bat mitzvahs, any and every event you can think of. Thank you for being understanding at every turn. I know I speak for the entire class when I say that it is a debt we can't repay, and we know a little something about that. The past 3 years come to a punctuation today, where our journey started long before 2016. Undergraduate work, prerequisite classes, hours of direct patient care, filling out ancillary applications to CASPA, going on interviews, and trying to convince program representatives that we deserve this opportunity. And that was the easy part. We were told from day one, if we were lucky enough to make the cut, that the road would not be simple. It'll be like taking a sip of water from an open fire hydrant was one analogy used to describe what was in store for us. It was accurate. There was an understanding that as practitioners, we would be expected to have the same breadth and depth of knowledge as the doctors we would one day work alongside. And yet, even with that understanding, I'm not sure we were all quite prepared for what was in store for us. It was never easy, and rightfully so. We have been given an incredible privilege to provide in many situations life-saving care. The expectations were constantly high, setting the tone for how it would eventually be when we are entrusted with the responsibility of a patient's health. Even with those challenges, this group of people never ceased to amaze me with how resilient and hardworking they were from day one. Not only did they meet every task head on, but they supported each other along the way. Time after time, I would see people step up to help one another. Maybe someone didn't quite understand a lesson right away, or a certain topic was particularly anxiety-inducing. Perhaps there was something going on outside of school and they simply needed someone to listen. This class would take time away from their own studying and their own lives to sit down with a fellow classmate without a second thought. We are a family, and every single one of you deserves this day. Now, our didactic years consisted of a very simple formula. Go to class, study hard, have an existential crisis, Google breathing techniques, climb out of that spiral and remind ourselves that we've made it this far and that we can do this, and finally take that test. Rinse and repeat. We all had our own ways of dealing with the nervousness that naturally comes with the trials of getting through a program like ours. Going to the gym, taking a walk outside, meeting with our fellow classmates for some food after class. We were even lucky enough to have our own personal yoga instructor. Our wonderful professors also provided us with opportunities to break up the monotony of long study hours. Multiple students participated annually in the Ocean Sound Relay coordinated by Professor Christine Prazak. This was a 50-mile race across Long Island where our program was able to raise money for the Leukemia and the Lymphoma Society. Anyone who participated in the run, helped with driving people back and forth, or just went to the race to show support, please stand. Come on, get up, group effort, let's go. Professor Barbara Piccarillo trained a group of students in ultrasound techniques. That group then taught a class of students from the College of Osteopathic Medicine here at NYIT. These skills were also put to the test at the first annual Yes I Scan competition at the American Academy of Physician Assistants conference last year, where NYIT's team placed top 3 out of 16 teams. If you were a part of that team, please stand. Our own personal Vanna White, Professor Sarah Winter, coordinated a trivia contest and is now in charge of the Professional Enhancement Program, which reinforces the idea of community outreach and encourages philanthropic efforts outside of the classroom. Professor, will you please stand? The aforementioned events and programs are only a few examples of the time and effort that our professors and my fellow students put forth for the betterment of our occupation as well as the surrounding public. Countless hours spent studying, hundreds of tests and quizzes later, and we were ready for the opportunity to apply what we had learned on real patients. Our clinical year was full of blood, sweat, and tears. Normally, that would be a cliche metaphor, but not for us. There was a lot of blood, tons of sweat-soaked scrubs, and more tears than I'm sure many of us would be willing to admit to. But these experiences helped solidify everything we had learned over the course of our didactic program. We spent time and learned from incredible preceptors, doctors, PAs, nurse practitioners, nurses. Not only did we learn what it means to understand medicine and its application, but also the importance of being part of a team and the vital role that every single person plays in the care of a patient. All roads led here to today, a celebration of the obstacles encountered and overcome during the course of 3 years. So what's next? I think the simple answer is, we don't know. There's a lyric that's always stuck with me throughout the years, and it comes from the song Beautiful Boy by John Lennon. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. I'm sure I could go around the room today and hear more than a few stories of well-intentioned plans gone awry, because life happens. Maybe you met someone who changed your life. Perhaps you decided to travel instead of taking that job you thought you'd always want. Maybe you got a visit from the stork. See, Professor Salter, I was paying attention during those obstetric classes. We don't know what the future has in store for us. So how do we put our best foot forward? How do we deal with so much uncertainty? I have 2 simple ideas that I try to apply. Take pride and be inspired. Take pride in your work. It's okay to take a step back and appreciate your accomplishments. Be proud of the fact that you worked hard and achieved those goals you set for yourself. Understand, though, that taking pride in your work and your life means constantly striving to be better. So once you've achieved those goals, it's time to set new ones. Be inspired by your work. There are going to be tough days ahead, that's for certain. But internalizing those moments of inspiration can help you to move past the worst of what life throws at us. Whether it's your patient who, even when it seems like everything is working against them, keeps their faith and defies the odds, or the colleague who constantly strives to be better, and no matter what the situation, stays optimistic and encouraging. Take these moments of inspiration and hope with you always. Carry them and use them often. And maybe work to be someone else's inspiration. To my fellow classmates, I say to you directly, take that next step with confidence and humility. It doesn't get any easier from here, but that's okay. We didn't choose easy. Be proud of what you earned today and continue to earn tomorrow. And as we put a punctuation on this chapter of our lives, think about how you want the next one to read. Thank you all, and congratulations to us, the class of 2019. Yeah, man, it's
that's phenomenal. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that's a great recognition, especially when it's coming from your peers.
Yeah.
That's the most important because that's the people you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people you're around every day.
Yep.
And if they see you as a leader and they see you as someone who's an inspiration to them, I mean that's just such a great feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And I got academic awards. I got inducted into an honor society where you needed at least a 3.7 GPA. I wound up ending with a 3.9, and
Nice.
and I don't say this to pat myself on the back because look at me, I'm really smart. It's because they didn't want me there. Mm-hmm. And based on my grades from undergraduate and the prerequisites I took, they didn't think I would make it. Mm-hmm. Clearly they didn't, or else they would have accepted me right away. So to come in and do what I did in the way that I did and to, supersede all expectations, was important for me, and I'm glad and happy I had this experience because to me, it's so cliche and everyone says it, but like you learn the most from your failures, even perceived failures, things that are a struggle, days where you're like, I don't have it, you know what I mean? Like you fail a test, you're down on yourself for one reason or another. There's countless stories of me being on my clinical rotation. So part of the program was we had a full year of rotation. So we would go like every month we would switch over to another specialty, another hospital. I did pretty well for myself. I could hold my own, even if I don't know what I'm talking about, I could make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. And I could, I would always let them know also, I don't know this, blah, blah, blah. But, I always held myself in a certain way. But I do remember one rotation in OBGYN, so obstetrics, gynecology, female reproductive health. We were doing a hysterectomy, so we were removing someone's uterus, and I was helping the surgeon close. So, we kind of, most of the time, depending upon where you are and who you were working with, they would either let you do a ton or that you would kind of just off to the side and not really doing much at all. So this was one of my first opportunities to actually do something with my hands. We had little things here and there during the school year, during didactic, where we learned a little bit, but actually doing it in person and, in real life on a real human is a little different. So he asked me, he's like, do you know how to, suture? And I said, yeah, I've done it before. And I guess I wasn't very convincing. And I certainly wasn't convincing once I started going, because he just kind of looked up at me and he said, oh, what do you want to get into? And I said, well, I'm actually interested in surgery. And he's like, not suturing like that, you're not. He's like, I wouldn't fucking hire you. Yeah. And he said it just like that. And my world crumbled around me. I was like, oh shit, man. I was just so embarrassed and I'm like, and then it made it even worse. So my hands started shaking and, I felt just so down on myself. But I remember going home and I'm feeling sorry for myself and sitting in my bed and, I'm like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the next day I woke up and I'm like, you know what? I'm glad he fucking told me that, because then I practiced and I practiced my suturing. I practiced my knot tying, which is all like important stuff, especially, for people who are closing, incisions, which a lot of the time the PAs wind up doing. And so fast forward like a couple of months, I did my cardiothoracic surgery rotation. So we got to do a lot on that and they let us do it. And I got to close one of the mid-sternal incisions. And so I'm there with the PA. And at that point I had practiced and he looked at me and said, wow, like you're pretty good. Like, you know what I mean? So to me, the first part, the feeling shitty and embarrassed and terrible and just a low piece of dog shit, was what led me to the point where I showed that I could do something better, because it said, all right, you know what? Like, you can sit here and feel sorry for yourself. You can cry about it and sit in your room and not come out, or you could say, all right, like, I'm not where I need to be, and recognize that and say, all right, now it's time to work a little bit harder. Like, you want to get somewhere, you want to be at a point where you're respected and people look at you and say, oh, he can do this. You got to work for it. And so, I welcome those moments, as shitty as they make me feel, because that's necessary to get me to that next stage. It's necessary to light the fire under my ass and say, okay, time to work. Now you got to work harder. Now you got to do something a little more, so there were a lot of those. And I'm happy that I had them. I don't believe I would have such a great opportunity as a new graduate if I hadn't, because, I had a pretty nice CV, curriculum vitae that I sent out to everybody. That it's like a resume, it lists all your stuff. I got a good offer. I got a good job and right out of the gate, but I'm ready to go in there and work hard and just keep learning and become even better. And I think they recognize that too. So I'm excited for the next step. The last step was great. It was the hardest, most challenging, but most rewarding thing I think I've ever gone through. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
It really is. And it's because it doesn't always work out.
No.
Right. So when you see someone who went through what you did, spent 7 years doing it, and learning it, and then you go from having that 3.1 to getting that 3.5 to getting that 3.7 to getting that 3.9 by the time you're done, and you can look back at the progression of, it's not a secret, work harder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, that's what it is. And some people get stuck, like my sister, because she's in this medical field, she keeps hitting roadblocks and roadblocks. I keep telling her, just keep.
You're going to.
You gotta keep working and working harder and getting better, and you have to recognize, and which is probably the hardest part, is recognize the things that you're doing wrong consistently, and you have to change the behavior.
Yeah,
and it's behavioral changes.
Sure,
that really put you on the right path. For you, exactly like you. Yeah. Someone tells you, "Oh, this is shit," and you're like, "Wow, I got to change what I'm doing." Yeah, put the work in. 6 months later,
what it came down to. Yeah,
it's better, and like it's not a surprise that it's better, right?
For sure.
Yeah, so that's amazing.
Yeah, that recognition isn't easy. No. I think for a lot of people, especially if you haven't gone through something like that, in the medical field, there's very high expectations, as there should be. You're caring for people, you're caring for people's loved ones, their fathers, their mothers, brothers, sisters, grandmothers. And you have to expect a lot of yourself. Expect more of yourself than even your patients or your patients' family members would, because that always puts you in a position where you're doing the right thing. You're like I said, you're not going to know everything all the time, but you have to be willing to put the work in where you need to, and filter out to whoever you need to figure out the answer. I think the most interesting thing is that people don't necessarily understand in the hospital, that there is someone making an ultimate decision, but there's a lot of discussion that goes on all the time. amongst healthcare professionals.
Yeah, hey man, that's why we don't do these live.
Like I said, you should. I'm sure you have some material already. You could start putting a gag reel together.
Oh my god, I wish I had the means to save everything. I really don't. But
So you start deleting it once
I edit it and it's done. Yeah, so
it takes up too much space.
That, and I have a problem not letting things go and not finishing things.
Okay.
So now I'm trying to go with, once I click send,
Everything else is done.
Look at it anymore.
I got you.
Like, it's all output.
Okay.
I don't even care what comes back. Just put it out.
All right.
And just moving on to the next thing. That's kind of
the
mentality I want to do.
If that keeps you in a where you need to be in order to do what you have to do, then that's what you do.
It keeps me from getting stagnant.
Yeah.
It keeps me from dwelling on, like, I had my buddy of mine, Steve, and he does like EDM music, and we were talking about like the creative process, and there's a lot of similarities to just all this stuff. It's just a matter of working hard and changing your behaviors, recognizing when you're sitting in a black hole of nothing and you need to get out of it, stepping away from things. Like, those are all problems I've had.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it firsthand. You know what I mean? Like, playing music together. I would always dwell on every little aspect of everything, and
let's make this riff better. It
could be better.
It's not good enough.
Let's keep good enough. And that's a great attitude to have, but at some point you have to be like, well, it'll be better next time.
Yeah.
Put that out, move on.
Yeah, it becomes a hindrance, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But it's all across the board. Even art, even things that you believe have this internal natural talent, whether it's painting, playing music, playing sports, things like that. I mean, there's a ceiling to it. And if you want to get past that ceiling, you want to get past that limit of whatever your natural potential gets you to, you got to work hard. So even if, to me, I can't draw for shit. But, I look at other people and I'm always interested when artists post like a progression, like they post something they drew, or a tattoo artist posts something they tattooed 10 years ago up until now. And you see like some wild like advancements in progression. And you're like, how? Like you can draw, you can't draw, but that's ignorant on my end, because like you could always get better. There's
and you
techniques.
Could always learn.
You could always learn. So even for art type based
what's that,
things.
left brain?
I think
right
so.
Brain?
Yeah, that was certainly always the thought that it was left brain versus right brain. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but
you would know better than I would, Doctor.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, so I won't sit here and pretend that I do. But yeah, I mean those things that we pursue, you could always become better, and it's not easy to fail. It sucks. It's a shitty feeling. It's such a bad feeling. But that's like how you get better. That's what brings you to that next stage. Like, what can you learn from it now? Like, whatever went on, whatever made you feel that way, use that as fuel and inspiration to never want to feel that way ever again. You're going to, but how can you avoid making the same mistake you did last time if you can?
Make a new mistake, sure. But don't make the same mistake. That's where the learning happens, is when you're making that same mistake. And definitions of insanity, right? Doing something, the same thing, doing it over and over again, expecting a different result. That's so much of where everyone lives, in that world, and especially in like the artistry world or musicians and stuff like that. I see so many talented people that just get stuck, and the only thing in their way is themselves.
Yeah.
So sure. I use you as an example all the time.
Yeah.
I do. Well, I tell your story constantly. I say, listen, man, my guy Paul, like, he decided one day, this is what I want to do. I want to go into this field, and I want to see where it takes me. When you first went into it, you didn't know what was going to happen. No. You didn't know you were going to be getting awards from your peers or anything like that.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean? You had no idea.
I wasn't even getting in for a while.
Yeah. You weren't
in
even
my
getting
mind,
in.
I wasn't even getting into school. So, I mean.
And you made a decision, too, because, like, you left a really fun thing that we were doing together. Sure. And, like, it was whatever. It was stupid. We're playing backyards and shit. But, it was a fun thing to do. You know what I mean? But you made the decision that, all right, over the next 5 to 7 years, this is going to be my life. I'm going to work my ass off. Yeah. And like you said, now you get that reward, where like everything's paying off. The work doesn't stop.
No.
It actually gets harder.
Yeah.
But you're prepared.
Yeah.
You're more prepared for it, which is, really commendable. Right,
Yeah,
Paul?
well,
Like,
I
gotta,
appreciate that. I really do. And I agree with everything you said. It was tough. It wasn't an easy decision. There were a few things that factored into it, but ultimately I knew I needed to. If I wasn't going to make the decision then I was never going to make the decision. So it was like kind of like pulling the trigger and saying I got to do it now. But yeah, I mean, I miss those days, man. I really do. But but what's funny is that the genesis of me playing in a band with you is very similar to me getting into school. I had a buddy of mine who is an excellent guitar player, this guy Joe McLaughlin, and I would always hang out with him. We were very good friends. We still are. And he always played guitar, and he was an excellent guitarist. And, the last time I had played an instrument was like in concert band in high school. I played the saxophone, which was what it was.
Where's those videotapes?
Oh, we could find some. We could definitely find some. I'll send some to you if I can. And I knew I always loved music. I loved different types of music, going to shows, things like that. And I would see people up on stage and be like, I want to do that. You know what I mean? And so I said to him, I literally just said to him one day, I'm like, I want to be in a band with you. Like, I'll teach myself how to play bass. He's like, awesome, let's do it. And so I started teaching myself, literally bought like a Warwick online on eBay for a few $100s and just started playing. And me and him would jam and play, and I would take some time at home to learn and get, like the finger picking style down, just get like my hands comfortable doing what I had to do, learning to play songs, doing different things. And we never made it to the band stage, but when I saw John Peters had posted something saying that you guys needed a bassist when when you guys were at the very early stages of putting this all together, I reached out to him and said, hey man, like, let's fucking do this. Like, I'd love to, have the opportunity. And we always tell the story of my first show ever.
You want to tell that story?
We'll tell part of it.
The greatest
Paramount
first episode
ever,
the first show ever.
You can't beat it. I mean, we played the Paramount. We never played a stage like that again. At least not while I was there.
Not really.
No, I think that was probably the pinnacle of stages and shows that we played. We played a lot of better shows.
The first one,
yeah, and it was pretty wild. I mean, to play the Paramount, and they never did local bands after that again. Not that I saw. Certainly not like
not in that
show.
kind of showcase type.
No,
it's a waste of stage space though.
Yeah, I mean they have big time comedians, and I think like Dream Theater played there.
I saw like Bill Burr there.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't need fucking My Kingdom playing there. But what a great experience! I mean, for the first time, and then to grow and keep playing shows and get comfortable on stage, go on tour.
And that was the first show you've ever played, right?
Yeah. First time I was ever on stage, period, playing live in front of people other than when I was in school.
Probably about 300 people.
Yeah,
maybe.
No big deal.
No big deal, except you're on the biggest stage on Long Island.
Yeah.
We had a green room with a shower.
Yeah, yes we did.
The best is like, you're like, is this what it's like? And I'm like, no. I'm like, it's not.
You'll never,
not even a little bit.
You'll never experience this ever again. No. So take it all in.
Yeah. This is about as good as it gets.
This is it. But like I said, we did play better shows. I think my favorite show that we played was one of the last ones we did, which was out in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah. When
that was your last show?
I think it was my last show, and what a fucking show, man. Like, everybody was into it. Every once in a while, like a lot of the time, because we weren't well known or we started to travel outside of Long Island, outside of our basis of fans, people didn't know who we were, so they were more listening to the music and kind of getting an idea. But this group of people was one of the few times that, like, even though it was a new set of fans and new ears listening to it, they were so fucking into it from the get-go. I mean, that like the energy you feel in certain situations is definitely different. And that was probably the best one for sure, at least for me.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting how all that kind of works and the different situations you find yourself in and how it changes depending upon where you are and what you're doing, who's listening to it, who's getting into it, who's dancing, who's not, you know what I mean? Because you had some shows that were dead and nobody was doing anything, but it, you know, to get to that point was a lot of fun, and we were just very comfortable with what we were doing at that point. And now, you know, I think we were just starting to write like that next EP that you guys wound up releasing after the fact, after I left.
Yep.
So we were in those like beginning stages. So we had played the stuff from Abandonment for how long at that point?
I mean, it had to have been a year or two.
Yeah,
probably,
at least,
right?
At least,
like at least.
Yeah.
You know, and we were playing that same set.
That was it. That was it. Maybe we changed like a couple of, when we would play certain songs, but other than that, it was...
That was a good point, too, because that show you're talking about, that was right around where we had a little bit of word of mouth going around, too, and people were like, you know, people were like, these guys are cool guys. We know these guys, like, because we were, at that time, we were helping bands with equipment. I was recording half the bands on the roster.
We'd go and support and see shows for people, even if we weren't playing.
Yeah, we did a lot of the things that a lot of people didn't do for us.
Sure,
honestly.
Sure.
And then at that show, it was the crowd. Just there is a sixth sense of that's energy. It exists. I'm convinced of it because a show like that was. We were hyped because we knew that was your last show, right? I think that might have not even. I think the backyard one was probably the last show. Maybe.
Yeah, there might have been one more after that.
But we knew that was like the last like decent show we were gonna play as a whole, and it was just a vibe. Like we felt it, we knew it. Like Paul, you were rocking out. I look over to my left, there you are, fucking doing your thing.
Yeah,
and you know, and we have videos of that too.
Yeah,
I want to show you before you leave. I'll pull it up on my hard drive. I'll pull it up over here. But I found one of my old hard drives.
Okay.
And it has like all the GoPro footage on it.
Oh shit.
Like
that's awesome.
From everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sick.
You got to sit down with that one day
or
a couple days maybe, depending upon how much is on there.
It's a lot.
Okay.
But there's some stuff on there with you and I and stuff on there, like fun stuff. Maybe we can take a look at it.
Oh, I'd love to, man.
Go down memory lane a little bit.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you this: as far as like. When you joined, you brought such a different character to the mix that it was such a good combination of that was when I thought we were at our peak, was literally right around when you were about to leave, because we were doing so good. We were flowing really well together. Like we weren't fighting, we weren't arguing, we were just banging out shows. We playing our set that we knew in and out, play it with my eyes closed, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like the production value was getting better. The more and more we played it, the set sounded really good. We had great tone. We were paying attention to those things.
We had lights and stuff that Joe would use.
Yeah. You know, we had a show.
Yeah.
Like when people came to see a show, we gave them a show.
For sure.
And
that's why we won a lot of like the
I got that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went to what was it? Festival at Six Flags.
Yep. Got that.
When what's his name threw a mic stand into the crowd, so Six Flags never did it again. Ronnie Radke.
It's so funny. I tweeted at him the other day because he put out a tweet like, you know, some people are just garbage. And I just wrote back like, I literally witnessed you throw a mic stand into a crowd full of people. Yeah. You are trash.
Like what are you talking about?
Like you are the biggest piece of trash that exists.
No self-awareness.
No
self-awareness. But I agree. And maybe it was because that was my first and only up until this point, you know, foray into playing in a band and playing live shows and stuff like that. So I was an infant in the sense of, you know, I wasn't jaded by anything. I hadn't played in bands with, you know, bad band members who did shitty things. Like, you guys became family to me very quickly, and we were all, you know, even for the times that we didn't agree on stuff, like, we got along very well. So it was a very good dynamic. And I think everybody had as much fun as you can doing something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always fun.
No,
like,
it's work. It's a lot of work.
It is. You know, it should be fun,
hard.
and we made it fun when it should have been fun. But we had to put the time in and practice, and you know, go to the studio and do this and do that. But I think we all enjoyed it as much as you possibly can. And it was always a good time for me, man. That's always some of my fondest memories. Like, I love telling people that we went on tour. That's like, that's one of the coolest things I've ever done, period.
It's a lot of fun.
Period.
Yeah. Especially like going to a place like Buffalo where you don't think anyone's going to be there. And there's a show. You know what I mean? Like,
Buffalo was a wild show.
You know?
Buffalo was awesome.
You know? Then there was, after you, I think after you left, we went to like Indiana. We played this dude's house.
Okay. How was that?
So basically, we went to a bar.
Okay.
And we were going to play the bar. And we had like 50 to 100 people were there. It was in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. Like, they don't get anything.
Right.
So they were excited for a show, you know? But they were kids. The owner of the bar wouldn't let them in. He's like 21 over. No one under 21. And literally 75% of the people are 18.
So nobody's getting in.
So we were just like, all right, well, fuck you. And then we went outside. We're like, who's got a house we can go to? Let's do this. And then this one dude's like, yeah, let's go to my dad's house. He's cool. And he was like, his dad was like an old roadie for like Black Sabbath in the 70s, some bullshit. You know?
So you probably loved it.
Oh, he loved every minute of it. It was
That's cool.
It was weird. I mean, the place was shit.
Sure,
but we brought the whole fucking crowd to this guy's
awesome.
house and just played in his living room and just played
so
a set. And I think we played a set twice because
why not?
Because no one knew the difference. Like, no one's like, did we hear a song already? They're like, no, it's all the same.
Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah. And it was a fucking banger, man.
That's
it was a banger.
awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
So
it was
cool.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. You don't get those experiences unless you do what we did.
You have to be on the road.
You don't. I'm just saying in general, like, people don't go out there and do shit like that.
It's a very niche market of like a way to live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
So worth it though. Even if you don't hit it big and you don't get to, fly around the world in private jets and go play Japan, like those little things are cool.
And the whole reason why you're doing it is because you have 4 other guys that love the same thing you love, and you guys are working together to create something.
Yeah.
And then when you see people, moving to it, singing the words, even it's a drug. You know what I mean? It's addicting.
For sure.
It's addicting for sure.
Yeah, man. Those times were great. I don't regret a goddamn second of it. I really don't. I really don't. It was such a good experience, such a cool, and like I said, I mean, to do it with people that you get along with so well. Even when we went on tour, we went with Trace Your Steps. Like, how lucky were we to find a group of people? Like, when we made the decision to go with them, we didn't really know them.
We didn't know them at all.
Yeah,
we played maybe 2-3 shows.
Yeah, exactly. And then we wound up like all being best fucking friends. Like, what are the chances that like 9 people like get along that well?
Like, so well.
Yeah, we had such a good time. Like, it wasn't like, oh, like I can tolerate you. Like, no, we fucking loved each other.
Yeah.
It was great. What a great experience. I actually recently pulled up the that tour update that we did in the van. Do you remember that?
God.
Like, sitting in the van where what's his name?
Dave was there.
Dave was the one like, yo man, like we're on tour right now. Like, he was talking to everybody. Like, I think it has like 150 views. If anyone really gave a shit. Nobody cared. We cared.
Well, that's the thing that I think. So we came in late to the game, in my opinion. We were a little old. But we also came in, whereas when social media was just really kicking off, like for bands and stuff like that, it really started with MySpace for bands.
Yeah.
But like we were in when Twitter was up on a rise. Obviously, Facebook was already established. Instagram was starting to do more things. So we wanted that immediate. Why isn't there 7 million views? You know what I mean? That's where I feel like we had a lot of wasted energy. You know what I mean? If we would just set the mindset of, no, we're just gonna put stuff out and
not worry about
I don't care.
recognition
I don't
right
care.
off the
Let's
bat.
just do it and people will like it or people won't. What difference does it make? If we would have went in with that more of that attitude, we kind of had that attitude, but more of that attitude, I feel like it would have been like a smoother process as far as like the creative process.
It could have been. I mean, the one thing I always said, though, I was very proud of the music that we put out, and I wasn't, even for me, this being the only real opportunity that I ever had to do something along those lines. I love the music that we put out. Even now, I still listen to it. If I'm at the gym or something, I'll throw it on. I'll throw on the new stuff that I wasn't even a part of, and I'll listen to it. Which is cool. It's cool to be proud of that. It's, because I could have just done it and found someone just for the sake of getting on stage and being able to do that. But I found lifelong friends, and I made art that I'm incredibly proud of to this day, which is awesome. It's fucking awesome. Again, not everybody does that, and not everybody either has the wherewithal or the ability, or they just don't take the opportunity. They don't pursue the things that they want to.
Can do it.
Yeah,
that's I feel like it's a big roadblock for people.
I didn't give a shit. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking do this. That's really what it was. Like, from that day, I told my buddy Joe, I'm like, I'm gonna teach myself how to play bass. He's like, all right, dude, and he was 100% in. He wasn't like, oh, like, you don't know how to play bass. He's like, oh, hell yeah, like, learn how to play bass and let's fucking play. And then that was like the genesis of that. That's where it all started. And then now I'm here. Like I said, I don't regret it. I'm glad I did everything I did.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was that our version of that band was very unique. There was so many different personalities, and it blended really well.
Yeah,
really.
Interestingly enough, like, because there were different personalities for sure.
And like sometimes we were all hard to deal with.
Yeah, but
me included.
It's a family. It's a family dynamic. I yell at my siblings and I get pissed at my parents, but I love them. You know what I mean? I never was like, I can't stand this person and I never want to see them again. You get a little annoyed and you move on.
Right. Like, I miss those days with that group more than I ever was mad at it. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, now years have gone by, right?
Yeah.
So, and I still see Anthony. I talk to Deuce every now and then. I actually just talked to John on the phone. I called him the other day.
Oh, cool. He's in Europe right now, isn't he? He's like traveling the world.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
It's John Peters,
doing John Peters things.
John Peters does John Peters things.
We should do like a My Kingdom. Do we have like the setup to do something like that?
We could do it. I can make it happen for sure. Deuce suggested it the other day. He
That'd
said,
be cool.
Get the six of us, like the five of us, and
That'd
get Ralph in too.
Yeah, for sure. How's Ralphie doing? Have you spoke to him? I see him on Instagram every once in a while.
I see him on Instagram. I haven't really spoke to him that much. I know he's been busy. He's been working for Joe, and he's also doing something else. But
gotcha.
You know what it is? It's just the distance, and now with the kid and the family, and it's like we grow apart. Like my buddy Steve, I talked to yesterday. I haven't spoken to him since my wedding.
Wow.
And he's like one of my best friends from college. You know what I mean? But we sat down just like this, and it was like we were hanging out yesterday.
Exactly.
So that's the testament to a good friendship is when time goes by and then you see someone and it's like, oh yeah, let's just pick up where we left off. You know,
sit and talk like it's nothing. It's very cool. It's very cool. Yeah, I think that would be awesome if we can get everybody in here and do something along those lines and just chill and have a few beers and
just watch like
reminisce.
a sizzle reel.
We could. That actually wouldn't be a bad idea if we can go through that GoPro together and just watch it like in real time and just.
Oh my god.
It's got to be. There's probably some stuff on there that we can't show on the internet, I would assume.
Who's gonna stop us?
Look, I got a career now. I'm a working professional. Okay,
yeah, right? You have the most to lose out of everybody. To be honest with you,
trust me.
The rest of us aren't
for damn
shit.
Sure. Oh man, yeah, man. Those were always good times. Always good times. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I learned so much, like that I apply to my work life now and my other relationships in life from those experiences. Just how to navigate strangers. You know what I mean? We stand up on a stage in front of strangers and get them to like us, and you have exactly this much time to do it. Yep. That's a hard.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't.
A lot of times it didn't.
Yeah, a lot of more than a few. More than a few. There'd be confused faces out in the crowd, like, what the fuck are these guys? But it is what it is, man. You throw it out there. It's like any type of art. You put a song out, you paint a picture, and you throw it out there. People like it, they like it. If they don't, fuck them. Who cares? Everybody's got the stuff that they like, and whatever.
Yep.
If you like it, you're proud of it. That's really all that matters at the end of the day. You want people to appreciate it for sure, but it's all good.
And let's talk real quick about your stage presence.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, where did that come from?
dude, fuck if I know, man. I don't know.
It's when the first time you were ever on stage and you just started doing the Paul.
Yeah,
moves.
I don't know.
I can't describe it for if anyone's watching this. They don't know what I'm talking about. Just go watch an old
Yeah,
My Kingdom video.
There's got to be videos.
It's everywhere. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I remember you straight up. We were playing a show at Even Flow, and it was a little bit. It was tight on that stage, just especially on our side because it was you and me on the one side. And I think I caught you like with my headstock, and you just straight up turn around and punched me like right in the shoulder in the middle of the show, like as hard as you could. Because I would be all over the place, man. I don't know. I don't know.
Stay on your side.
Yeah. It's like sleeping with your wife, man. You're just like elbowing each other, fighting for covers. Yeah, man.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
I have no idea where it came from. None. I just the most natural whatever the fuck went on. I just had such a good time every time I was up on stage, and that's what I did. Mm-hmm. By being there.
It was inspirational because I would watch you. I was the closest one to you, and I would watch you. I'm like, he's having so much fun.
Dude,
and I'm like, it just comes out of him, the way you move. And I've never seen anyone, with the exception of like Rob Trujillo from like Metallica.
Wow, all right.
You know, like, because, he gets
crazy.
You know, he does all kinds of crab walking.
His bass is like sitting on the ground while he's playing.
But you had such a unique like groove to your bass playing that added such a flavor to the music that honestly it goes unnoticed almost and like unappreciated, but it's one of the things that was a hole that never really got filled. Like, not to say anything bad about Ralph, like Ralph did a great job. Ralph brought a whole nother presence because he's the one who kind of brought in a little bit more of the showmanship, like with the spinning and, like,
and the stomps and stuff, like, for sure.
You do this. He kind of orchestrated all that stuff, and that's what he kind of brought to the table. You brought a vibe. Like, people, even if someone just walking by, they would see you rocking on stage, like, they'd stop and
like,
look,
what are they playing?
Like,
what's going on? Yeah,
because of the way it was grooving and shit. And like, the way we kind of structured our bounciness, and it just worked out so good.
Who knows? Maybe it was, a lot of what I grew up either listening to musically. Like, I was never a dancer, certainly, but I listened to a lot of different things, and there's certain musical motifs, I guess you could say, that kind of sit with me and really like vibe with me. And, I like groovy stuff. I like stuff I could like nod my head to a certain way, so maybe that was it. Again, like I loved the stuff that we played, and I think that kind of, showed in how I was on stage. It was always fun, man. It was always fucking fun. It was never a bad time. And I just like, I knew I wanted to enjoy my time on stage, because I didn't know, I had never done it before, and I didn't know how long I would be able to do it, so I'd walk around, I'd go to, Anthony, put my fucking foot up on his bass drum, fuck you, man, this is my spot now, like, get my feel of everything that was going on. I couldn't pinpoint where it came from and how it started. It just kind of happened. Because I remember if you watch the Paramount video, I don't move around that much. No, because it was, I didn't know what the fuck to do. But as we started, just a little bit, just enough that there was stuff going on. But as we started to do more shows, and I maybe playing with other people, seeing how the crowd moved a little bit, maybe added to it.
Because people dug it. Like, people,
I think so.
They're like, that's the band with the bass player that does that dances like crazy.
Like whatever the fuck he's doing.
It was a piece of our identity. Yeah, and like as a whole, I was like, when you left, I was like, I'm kind of missing that. Like, I kind of miss that. And again, not to shit on Ralph at all, because I love Ralph. Yeah, he brought a lot, but it was just different. Yeah, it was a different
and even
investment.
The music was a little different when Ralph came in, and
it got a little bit more modern.
Not
I guess
good or bad. It was just different. I think people bring different things to the table. Yeah. It was funny. Like, we're on two sides of the spectrums as far as bass players are concerned, He played with a pick. I played fingerstyle. He was very much like bred in that hardcore metalcore scene, whereas this was my first foray into this type of music, certainly writing it and playing it. I can't speak to what his inspiration and what the stuff he listened to growing up was, but I listened to a lot of like Beatles and Stevie Wonder and even old big band stuff like Duke Ellington and Buddy Rich. And, my dad has all this stuff that he would show us and play for us. Zeppelin. And, even later on, I discovered like Pink Floyd on my own. And then I started listening to like progressive like metal and Dream Theater, Protest the Hero, Periphery, like Animals as Leaders, things like that. So I think it's all a big mishmash of what I grew up with playing, because my tastes are so eclectic. Like I like a lot of everything, and I'll listen to a lot of everything. I think one of those memes out now is like a picture of like Beethoven and Tupac, and the same picture. It's like when I plug my phone into the aux, because that's what plays. Like there's so many different. Range. Yeah, I'll listen to just about anything that sounds good. But yeah, you can even see it with bands that lose members and get new ones. Like their sound changes, and that's just a natural progression. I think it's how you write with other people. It's one thing if it's a solo act, and you might even see progression through that in itself. People's inspirations change. The music they're listening to at the time, I think, has a lot to do with the way they write and the way they put things together. So there's a lot of things. It's multifactorial.
Yeah.
A lot of things go into it. Yeah. I miss Ralph. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while either. We'll get him in here.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. If we do the My Kingdom stuff, I want him here too.
So when you let's go back to the medical stuff for a second, because that's really why I really wanted to kind of bring you in on this, because
talk to me.
How did you, just personally, like, and I know who you are, like, you're a very driven person, like you were just saying, like, you learned how to play the bass, and you knew how to play the bass, like, you figured it out, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? You put the work
in my own special way. I did, yes,
but you did.
Right.
We never had to like worry about
it.
Like,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Maybe John would have to show us some stuff, but he was the lead musician, really,
Right.
But when it comes to like just studying over and over again, and just going through these classes over and over again, and retaking classes, and not getting the grades you want and stuff like that, at what point, or were there any points that you were just like, this isn't going to happen, I'm going to stop? What kept you going?
I like being the person you come to and ask questions, and I know the answer. I do. I want to be that guy that you come to and say, "Hey, Paul, what do you think about this? What's going on?" And I have an answer for you. I like knowledge. I like the pursuit of knowledge. I like having knowledge. I like learning new knowledge and bouncing ideas off of people, depending upon what we're talking about and what we're doing. And in the medical field especially, you want to do the right thing by people, because sometimes your decisions are life or death. And you don't want to do the wrong thing because the consequences are bad. So it's a drive, because I want to be that guy, and also I want to do the right thing by everybody. I want to do the right thing by my patients' families. Being a nursing assistant for a while was definitely key in how it molded me, in how I approach people and speak to them. And because I knew my patients on a very personal, intimate level, in the sense that I was doing hygiene, I was doing bed baths, I was doing things like that. I was helping people to the bathroom. It's when you lose that independence and you're reliant on somebody else, it's a tough feeling for you, but you want to be comfortable enough with who's providing that care for you. Yeah. So I, became a person, if I wasn't already, that was, very understanding and very patient, and, would never make you feel bad about the fact, or I would try not to, certainly, make you feel bad about the fact that I was, doing these things for you.
There's a lot of humility involved with
for
that.
For sure. And it's, it's tough being in the hospital. I mean, it's these people are at their most vulnerable. It doesn't always bring out the best in people, that's for sure. But dealing with that and understanding that, like, I take a lot. I took a lot when I worked as a nursing assistant. I plan on taking a lot, I'm sure, once I'm a practicing PA. But yeah, man, I want to be that person that can help you the best that I can. And having that knowledge is part of that. And I like bullshit knowledge. I've always read. I like pop culture stuff. I love movies and shows and comics and things like that. Video games. I fucking love video games. Music. Like, even just finding new bands is like a cool thing for me. Like that type of knowledge, not even just textbook. This is this and this is that. It's like, here's something new. It's the
discovery.
Yeah, discovery. Exactly. I think that's like hit it right on the head. Yeah. Finding something new that you like. Food. Food experiences. I recently went and did an omakase with a friend of mine, to a couple friends of mine in the city, and it's basically just like it's a tasting menu at a Japanese restaurant, and you just, it's a flat fee, and they just bring you certain things to the table, and you just eat it. And like, if you're adventurous enough, I can't recommend it enough. It's amazing. Yeah, but just things like that. I don't know. It's just fun. The pursuit of it is fun, and the actual recognition of learning something new and the actualization of whatever you were pursuing is fun as well. So yeah, that always keeps me going. And again, we talked about it, how much medicine changes over time, so you're constantly learning something new. You should always like try to learn something new. If you learn like one fact a day, like that's enough. That's enough to keep you going. You add it to your little base of knowledge, and you keep moving right along. That's it. Enjoy yourself for the rest of the time.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's all you can do. Is I get frustrated with doctors sometimes, because I'm like, how do I know this and you don't know this? When it's something that's like that I've read an article on the web, or maybe I read the scientific journals a lot.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, did you not know this? Don't you get alerts on your phone?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and that's
but it's hard to do other things.
It's tough. It's tough because not all the stuff you find online is good information. Of course. Certainly,
you got to decipher.
And everybody just kind of clicks on the first link on Google and prints that out and hands it to you and yells at you and says, "Why didn't you know this?" Well, because it's wrong. That's why I didn't fucking know it. Because this is
hard to tell someone that too.
Right. Yeah.
Like, but my internet box says it's right.
And sometimes they are right. But I think it's also about being having enough humility that you can say, "Oh, all right, like, where'd you get this from? Let me take a look at it. Like, is it something new? Is it something I've never read before? Is it something that I should learn and know?" Because there's always stuff out there like that you're never gonna know everything. So being open to it, I think, is important too. And even as a patient, if they recognize that you're willing to take the time to read it and go through it and decide whether or not this is pertinent information and applicable clinically, then they're more respectful of you. You know what I mean? Like, they'll listen to what you have to say. But it's always tough. I mean, that dynamic is never easy. Everyone's a little different. Not everybody. Some people are just looking for fights and looking to have some sort of
conflict.
Yeah. Before you even walk through the door, it's just they're ready to go, and you're never gonna get anything across that way, and that's always tough, And it's sometimes that's on the other end too. Not everybody has the best bedside manner. And again, talking from a position of vulnerability as a patient, you're sick, you're in no one wants to be in the hospital. No one wants to be sick. No one wants to be taken care of. No one wants to be put on a bedpan to take a shit. Like this, all of it sucks. So if you have a doctor then, or any healthcare practitioner for that matter, who comes in and is either nasty or condescending or, it makes things uncomfortable and, isn't nice to you, you're going to remember that. And it's going to make everything that much worse. It's like, oh, this person's in charge of my care? Like, great. Like, it sucked already. Now it sucks that much more. And they might be a good doctor. And they might do all the right things and write the right prescriptions and the right orders and do everything the right way. But even just to smile And, taking a few minutes to speak to someone on an even level, on a human level, makes a difference. And not everybody recognizes that. Not everybody puts an importance on it. And I think more people should.
How much of your medical training do they actually spend on those type of interactions? And they're teaching that, right?
A lot.
Because that's part of my. So what I was doing before was I was doing national training, corporate training, things like that. And it's just basically sales training and how to present and how to present yourself to a customer, how to present yourself to a stranger, how to, I was training trainers. So if a lot of times we'll get asked questions, we don't have the answer.
Right.
We get a set amount of information from the manufacturer, and that's what we have to work on a lot of the time.
Yeah. So
teaching people how to say, you know what, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It goes so much further than just making up something or just pretending, or dismissing right away. Where if you just, you know what, let me look into that. That little moment, that allows a give and take between you and whoever you're speaking with, or whoever the patient is, or customer, whatever the case may be.
And people will be respectful of that. If they then catch you in a lie when you're like, oh, yeah, sure, this is what it is. And then they're like, no, that's not what it is. I know that's not what it is. Now I don't believe a fucking word coming out of your mouth. Yep. So move on to the next person because I don't want to speak to you anymore. That's it. That's the end of that conversation.
Yeah. That's what I went through with my back.
Yeah.
Yeah, for years, man, years. So I got the surgery.
Okay.
Have we talked about it?
I don't know. How long ago did you get it?
3 or 4 months ago.
Oh, wow. Oh, shit. Yeah, okay. And you're moving around pretty goddamn good.
It's amazing.
What'd you get? You get a laminectomy?
And a discectomy. Microdiscectomy, laminectomy. L4, L5, S1.
Okay.
So, yeah.
How do you feel?
Amazingly better.
Okay.
Surprisingly better.
Yeah.
But, so the issue I had, just to go through the story, I tell the story all the time, but so I got into a car accident when I was 18. That's what caused the bulge or the herniations and all that shit. What was happening was I wasn't able to sit in a chair. Even when I was with the band, my back was always hurting. I would my leg would go numb. I get the sciatic pain and whatever. Yep. So sitting in that chair, the chair I used to mix, if I was sitting mixing for, I would sit there for hours, just mixing songs and, next thing I couldn't stand up or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was about 10 to 15 years. Actually, it was realistic. It was 15 years of that.
Yep.
Of that constant
pain.
I
remember you struggling with it. Yeah.
I got so used to it, and even carrying equipment up and down fucking stairs, and, doing all shit with it. Yeah. I go to the doctor, and he's like, "This should have been taken care of a million years ago." And he's like, "Well, it's like you've been dealing with this for how long?" I'm like, "About 15 years." He's like, "You're crazy." At the time, the only solution was to do the fusion.
Okay.
That was it. It was here, and the way they explained it to me was like, listen, here's what will happen. We'll do fusion. Basically, what we'll do is we'll take 2 discs out. We'll give you the rods, right, and then we fuse it all in with the bone marrow that goes over it, that they take from your hip.
Yep.
And then they put that on and everything like that. And then, and the explanation I got was, you'll still be in a lot of pain. It'll still hurt, but it'll hurt less, and you're gonna lose a lot of mobility. You won't be able to play hockey. I was playing hockey this whole time.
Yeah.
Ice hockey.
Yes.
And I didn't want to do that when I was 18, 19, 20. I was like, let me ride this out and see if I can get to 40. Well, I got to 33. So what happened one day, I had Thomas, and I went to pick him up out of his crib, and I just fucking collapsed. I didn't drop him. Luckily, he was enough where he was just in the crib, but then I just collapsed. I fell over. I couldn't get up for an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, I got to get the surgery done. I go to the doctor. He's going down the... not CT, the
MRI.
Yes. And he's like, all right, this looks good. That's a little bulge. This looks good. That's good. Oh, well, you need surgery. And but by the time he got to it, it was just blowing out.
Yep.
Blowing out. I think I have the disc in here. I can show it to you.
Okay. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. And he's like, I can take care of this. There's about 5-6% chance you can blow it out again. Well, by the time I'm done, he's like, but I don't have to cut any bone. I don't really have to do anything like that. I can do it with just cutting out the bulge disc, sewing it up so it's not pushing against your nerves anymore. Which I guess is that's what the discectomy is, I guess.
Yes.
So they went in, and the disc, what was ending up happening. So you know how it works, right? So you're a fucking physician. So your nerves are going up and down.
Tell me about it, Joe, please.
Well, so your nerves are going up and down, right? And the disc are pushing up against your nerves. So generally, it would push up against this. Mine was going like this.
Oh, you were through.
Yeah. So it was like blowing through my nerve.
Right.
And it was like that for years. So that's why he was just like, what have you been doing this whole time? He's like, you played hockey? I'm like, yeah, I play hockey. I mean, I can't walk for 3 days after I play hockey, but I play hockey. So he ended up saying, he basically, essentially, the way he described it was, because it's eggshell, you know what I mean? Like the actual reality of it. But he had to chip it out, like chisel it out.
Yeah.
Because it was all calcified and all hard. So it was hard in against the nerve like that. So they literally had to go in and like, I guess just chisel pieces of it out, and until they found like some soft pieces.
Spine surgery is interesting. I saw a few during rotations there. It's wild.
Yeah, it took longer than he thought and stuff like that. But first 3 days were rough. Rough recovery.
Sure.
Day 5, day 7, I was walking around.
Yeah.
I felt like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He got his powers, you know what I mean? And he's just like standing up straight, takes his glasses off. You know, I was like, this is amazing.
And you're like 4 months post-op now at this point?
About 4 months post-op.
I've been any symptoms?
None.
Nothing from what you used to have.
I get soreness.
At the point where the incision is, nothing like radiating down the leg or anything that you used to have?
My leg's been fine. And and I know right away because when I was working for like doing the driving, I was like the sales rep stuff, so I was driving everywhere. That job turned into me flying everywhere. When I was the national trainer, I was national.
So you're just sitting in a plane from
Seattle to Long Island, back to LA, back to Dallas, back to Long Island in a week.
Yeah.
You know, like just
sitting
on fucking planes.
Yeah.
That was killing me. But now, like, I can sit in this chair and talk to you. It's been probably an hour, and
no big deal.
No big deal.
That's cool.
It's really
that's
mind
awesome.
blowing.
I'm glad because I remember talking about it with you a while back, and you were like, "No surgery."
No,
which it's tough.
I didn't want to do it.
Thankfully, and if you find a good enough doctor, they will be cognizant of that and won't necessarily recommend surgery unless you are like crippled by your symptoms. And thankfully it's you're at a point now where you did what you had to do and you feel a lot better for it. Yeah, because I remember how bad it was for you. It's very tough. It's very tough to get through. And the one cool thing that they said about spine surgeries and stuff, and I did get to witness it, is like right after the surgery, you'll actually go to people in PACU in the post anesthesia care unit. Like that's usually right where they go, right from the OR, and they'll feel better. Like immediately, they'll have, if they have constant symptoms, those constant symptoms will be relieved.
Yeah, like immediately.
Yeah. So, where'd you have it done?
St. Catharines.
Okay. And you're also talking about, like, I mean, those advancements in medicine also come down to surgical techniques. So, minimally invasive things, better care pre-op and post-op that helps you with healing and advancing in your rehab. So these all make things a hell of a lot easier, which is great. I'm glad you're feeling better, man. I mean, that's like life-changing. It
really is. Yeah, it really is. Like I can sit down and not want to die.
Yeah. And especially like taking care of your son, and just like you said, I mean, God forbid you were walking with him in your arms and your back went out. You know what I mean? Like, what do? You collapse. And that's so. Thankfully everything's working out better. Good for you. I'm glad.
Yeah, and it was pretty. It was a pretty interesting experience going through the whole thing, and I'd never gone through like a big surgery like that before or anything like that. So
scary.
It was. It was definitely scary, but I'm happy that I did it. It's been 4 months, so I haven't skated.
Yeah.
I've hit the gym twice a week, maybe.
Okay.
Like, just trying to. Like,
have you doing like PT and stuff?
They gave me a prescription for PT. I just haven't been able to go.
Okay.
Honestly, just with time.
All right.
Just with the way my job was. So but now I have time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would put an emphasis on that for sure, because you don't want to regress to where you were. You want to make sure you're building things up the right way and progressing the right way. So
yeah. And I'm pretty. It's funny because I've been so. My normal mannerisms and the way I move around, the way I walk, the way I pick things up. I still have like PTSD a little bit from like. I always had to stand a certain way. If I'm sitting in my car, I have to sit a certain way. If I'm picking something up, I have to do it whatever way relieves pressure off my lower back, you know?
Right.
So I still do that stuff now.
Yeah, without even realizing.
Without even realizing it. Yeah. Just walking around, like, I find myself, I'm puffing my chest out a lot. I was like, why are you puffing your chest out? I was like, I'm not. I'm just standing up straight.
I'm a tough motherfucker. That's why I say some shit.
Yeah. Well, those days are over. Now it's just my back.
That's it, man. But yeah, man, it's good. I got no complaints, man.
Yeah, man, you're right on a high right now. You got
dude.
You got your physician's assistant.
Yeah.
Was it
physician assistant?
Is that a certificate degree?
It is you need at least a bachelor's degree. There's only one bachelor's program left that I'm aware of, and I believe it's St. John's. Most are masters, and there is actually a new doctorate degree. I forget the name of it, but it's like a PA, but it's like a doctorate now. But most are masters. Like 99% of them are graduate degrees. You have to pass a national certification exam, so you're certified, and you have to get a license through whatever state you work within. So I actually just got that.
So you're licensed certified physician's assistant.
I am state license certified, passed my national boards, and I'm ready. I can practice anywhere that's willing to hire me right now. But
that's fantastic. So now, obviously, this is the game plan. Are you planning on taking that to a different level?
I'm going to work within this specialty for as long as I can. I don't see any reason not to. I think there's a lot to learn over the course of many years in order to get to a place where I'm a capable, independent, autonomous practitioner. So until a point where, you know, things get stagnant, which I really don't see that happening, especially in this, like they just opened up like a new heart transplant service over there. So I'll be at a point when I'm ready to go in the OR. Like I could work as first assistant in the operating room. I can go on procurement. So they might call me up. They have a list of people to call. They might call me up at 3 a.m. and say, hey, we have a heart ready. And I'll hop on a helicopter, go harvest a heart out of someone's body and bring it back and put it in someone else.
Oh my God.
So like, there's really like, I don't see myself getting bored or like, not, you know what I mean? No. Like that's like some, you know, Hollywood.
That's some TV shit.
Yeah, really.
It's like Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I saw when I went for the interview, I was like, the guy was showing me around. I'm like, he's like, yeah, this is the cooler that we put the heart in. We go get it. I'm like, all right. Yeah, man. It's just a regular ass cooler.
Yeah, it's like
it's just a fucking
like an igloo.
Exactly. Like you have to, you know, you have a couple of Bud Lights in there, like right next to the heart when you get it.
Just pick up ice before you.
Yeah, exactly. Got to stop at the beer distributor first.
Yeah,
get a couple of big bags. Yeah,
That's wild, man.
It's I got nothing to complain about, man. I really don't.
So you're gonna be basically on call all the time then, right?
Yeah, you work your shifts. You'll also be on call, certainly like overnights and stuff. If anything emergent happens, if nothing happens, you don't get a call and you still get paid, you know, whatever, to be there. But yeah, it's you know, that's definitely something I'm gonna have to be available to them,
right?
More so than a lot of other jobs. But that's fine by me. I mean, financially, it'll be good for sure.
Yeah.
Working overtime and stuff like that. And I got a lot of debt to pay off. So
that's,
you know, it is what it is. But like I said, man, I got nothing to complain about. I worked for it and I earned it, but like, I feel very blessed. I feel very happy with where I'm at. And I got a beautiful fiance. I got a healthy family. You know, things are good, man. Things are good. And even when they're not good, they're good. Really, honestly. Like I got everything's all right, man.
You're a testament to hard work pays off. Persistence is key. You know, I've never known you to be lazy. It's a pet peeve of mine because I can get lazy, of course.
Yeah.
Like everyone can, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but
everyone has their moments.
But when I watch someone like you who's just not lazy and driven and get something done. Like I feel like everything we just talked about, the band, everything that was a blink of an eye yesterday. You know what I mean?
It was.
And in that time, you've elevated yourself to a position that's very few people get to.
Yeah.
And the level of importance, and like you said, you're helping the helpless.
Yeah.
It's commendable. It's very I'm like. I don't want to say like I'm proud of you, but like I am. Like
No,
I'm proud to be your friend. Like I'm proud that someone of your caliber is in my life. You know what I mean? That makes me happy.
That's good, man. That means a lot to me. I mean, we want. I think we like to surround ourselves with like-minded people, people who pursue. Certainly, from my perspective, I like being around people who pursue what they want and work hard for what they want. And just like you said, like being lazy is a pet peeve. It's like, I've heard Joe Rogan talk about. I don't know if you ever I'm sure you listen to his podcast.
Sure.
You ever hear like David Goggins?
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
he's a different.
He is. He's on another level, but
but he's not wrong with the stuff he talks about.
Yeah, that idea that like you just have to push through and like you got to go out and do it, and you have to fail and you have to fail again, and after that you fail another time, but then you succeed. Like that always kind of sticks with me, and that's how you get to that next level. That's how you keep working if you want something bad enough, and it's a passion too. Like. All throughout this process, as challenging as it was, I enjoyed it because I'm passionate about it. There was never once a time, even when it was really, really hard, where I was like, I don't want to do this. It was, I need to work harder because I want to do this. So I think it's partly recognizing that, being self-aware and finding it within yourself to get to that point, but also choosing something that you do have a passion for. Something that you want to pursue and you want to put the time and the work in to get there. Because if you're wasting all this time, like if I didn't like doing this, to waste 3 years and frankly like $200,000 of my life, what the fuck would be the point? That would be just a terrible waste of everything. So thankfully my journey, my life and the things I've done have led me to a point where I knew where I wanted to be and I had the ability to get there. I was given an opportunity to pursue that in getting into PA school.
And you recognize that opportunity, which is huge.
Yeah.
Because how many times does that just
trust me, I
disappear,
Dude, I didn't it had disappeared for me. It had. Getting rejected 3 out of 4 times and getting waitlisted until a month before school started. It was gone. Like in my mind, it was gone. Danielle, my fiance, is actually, she loves to tell that story because it was, and I told you so, Mom. She's like, no, just keep waiting. Like they might get in touch with them. Like, Danielle, they're not fucking calling me. Like they would have called me already. Like, don't, and then when they finally did, she got to say, I told you so. So I always give her a little bit of credit for that. No, but you know what? But that's also a cool thing because I recognize that in myself. I get very down on myself sometimes. And she's like, take a breath. It's not that big of a deal. And having that like dichotomy of me being like super over the top, like, self-deprecating to a certain extent, and her being, self-motivating, that's super helpful. That's super helpful, and it's an amazing thing to have, and like it's super special, and like, again, very lucky, very happy to be where I'm at.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's good.
I think that's a stop it right there. That's good. That's a good spot to stop.
My man.
I want to thank you for coming over.
Yeah, dude. It's a fucking pleasure, man. This is awesome.
Yeah. Fun.
How much time were we? It's 3:17. I think we've been sitting there for like 2 hours.
Couple hours.
Nice.
Yeah. Dude, it's a black hole in here. It flies by.
Love it.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Man.
Love you.
Awesome. Love you too, bro.